The Red-Headed League. By Sherlock Holmes. On a Saturday, a London pawnbroker named Jabez Wilson visits Sherlock Holmes and Dr. Watson in order to seek their advice. During their examination of this prospective customer, Holmes and Watson both noticed that the prospective customer's fiery red hair has a distinct tone. Wilson tells them that a few weeks earlier, his young assistant, Vincent Spaulding, pushed him to reply to a newspaper advertisement by the Red-Headed League, which promised highly paid jobs to only red-headed male candidates. The article was seeking applicants solely with red hair. The next morning, after waiting in a lengthy line with other men with red hair, Wilson was the only candidate to be accepted for the job. This was due to the fact that none of the other applicants had hair color that was comparable to his. Wilson was relieved to be offered the job since business had been slow at his pawnshop. It was expected of him to sit in an office from 10 in the morning until 2 in the afternoon every day and copy the Encyclopedia Britannica. In exchange, he was paid £4 a week. The activity consisted of pointless clerical work, and it was carried out in nominal accordance with the desires of an American billionaire who desired to care for the well-being of red-headed males similar to himself. After a period of 8 weeks, Wilson finally reported to the office, where he found a notice on the door announcing the dissolution of the Red-Headed League. After having a conversation with the landlord, he learned that the landlord was unaware of either the organization or of Duncan Ross, the fiery-haired individual who was responsible for recruiting Wilson for the post. The landlord did remember a red-headed client who had given his name as William Morris and produced a business card for a firm that made prosthetic kneecaps, but no one there knew of either Ross or Morris. The landlord did remember the tenant since he had given his name as William Morris. Wilson made the decision to discuss his situation with Holmes right now. Wilson's indignation at being laid off is met with laughter by both Holmes and Watson, who point out that Wilson has already acquired a considerable income. Despite this, Holmes promises that the mystery will be solved in a short period of time. After receiving a description of Spaulding from Wilson, Sherlock Holmes and Dr. Watson go to the pawn shop to look for him. When Spaulding opens the door, Holmes uses his walking stick to tap the sidewalk in front of him, and his attention is drawn to the knees of Spaulding's pants. In the evening, after coming to the conclusion that a crime is going to be committed at a bank adjacent to the shop, Holmes comes together along with Watson, Inspector Jones of Scotland Yard, and Mr. Merriweather, the chairman of the bank. Merriweather says that the bank's storage locker has a consignment of gold coins that were borrowed from a bank in France. Holmes suspects that a wanted criminal named John Clay is attempting to steal them. The four people hide out in the darkened bank vault while Merriweather makes his revelation. After waiting for more than an hour, Clay and his red-headed partner Archie finally make their way upstairs through the vault floor, which Merriweather had mistakenly found to be hollow earlier. Archie manages to escape, but he is eventually apprehended by the extra police officers that Jones has stationed outside Wilson's establishment. Clay is immediately taken into custody. Back at Baker Street, Holmes provides Watson with an explanation of his line of thinking. Archie and Spaulding, whom Holmes identified as Clay depending on Wilson's description, devised the Red-Headed League as a means of keeping Wilson occupied during the day so that Clay could tunnel into the bank vault from the basement of the shop. Clay's plan was to steal money from the bank. Clay's trouser knees were worn and muddy as a result of digging, and Holmes learned by hitting the pavement that the basement stretched past the store and toward the bank. Holmes also saw that Clay's pants were soiled and worn as a result of digging. Archie had rented the office under the guise of Morris, then hired Wilson under the guise of Ross, and then closed the office under the guise of Morris once the tunnel was finished.